Welcome on into a live edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here, hanging out with everyone coming out of the bye week, getting ready for the Saints NFL Week 11. I just threw up a little bit. Week 11. Where did the season go? This went way too fast. I think everyone has that moment where you go, stop. We are going through this year too quickly. And I'm at that point right now. Week 11 sounds gross to say out loud. So, with that being said, we do have to acknowledge that at 2-7, this is not a playoff-bound season. So, what comes next? The NFL Draft. That is where our attention mostly turns to. So, would you draft a quarterback in round one? Yes or no? It's not a very simple question to answer without knowing, well, where are the Browns going to pick? That's like the biggest question I have. If they're picking first overall and they love like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, then that might change things. But I've got Deion Sanders saying he's going to have a role in Shedeur's pre-draft process, which doesn't sound like he would love the Cleveland Browns franchise. So would you draft a quarterback in round one? I err on the no. I don't think they are a rookie quarterback away from solving a lot of their problems. I'd rather they go out and use that first-round pick, something they have not had since selecting Greg Newsome 26 overall, and just go get the best player. Go get some young talent, and whether you run it back with Watson again for year 4, which I know that's not a very exciting possibility, but it is a possibility, and it's got better chances than we're thinking of it happening, or you go out and get a bridge quarterback, you bring back Jameis. I don't know. I don't care. But I don't want to see them just use a first round on a quarterback just for the sake of taking a quarterback so they can, have a baby to save the marriage type of thing. And all of a sudden they realize, well, that quarterback didn't work out. And now it feels like we've gone 4 straight years without having a first round draft pick, which that would basically be the case. And that's kind of unsustainable unless you have a Super Bowl ring to show for it, which the Rams do. But if they didn't have that ring, oh, how different the conversations about LA would be. So would you draft a QB, yes or no? I want to give some shout-outs. David says yes. Jim says no. Dylan says yes. Jason is suggesting Drew Aller in round 2 or 3. Dakota, Kyle Trask for a bridge guy. Now, Kyle Trask sucks. If Kyle Trask wasn't even in consideration to be the starter after being a round 2 pick following Tom Brady's retirement, I know everything I need to know about what Kyle Trask was doing in practice. And it's clearly not impressing anyone. Austin says no. Roman says no. Dallas says no. Mark Hudson, what's going on, Mark? Appreciate you taking time out of your day to come hang out with us today, Mr. Hudson. Let me know in the comment section, yes or no. Steve, Deshaun was the worst decision. Steve, with some very hard-hitting analysis that I don't think anyone else has thought of yet. Steve, I have some news. You are not the first one to arrive to that conclusion. But I won't silence you because given how much turmoil the team has been through lately, you can say that all you want. On repeat, and you have the right to do so. Jason, PD, round 1. Don't take me round. No, please don't. I'd rather take anyone else. I would be an awful player for the Browns. Don't do that. Don't do that. Jim, no, trade for someone to QB and add an offensive lineman. I think low-key best scenario is you kind of do what the Cardinals did a few years ago, where they traded back, remember, and they ended up getting Paris Johnson, who, by the way, is having a really good year in the desert, and you get a boatload of picks for the future, and you still get a really good player, but a little bit later, which is a little bit cheaper low-key. I think that's like the most optimal outcome for Cleveland. Shout out your city for me, though, in the chat as we continue to get people strolling on into our live show today. Let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always awesome to see how far and wide this Dog Pound fan base stretches. So shout out your city in the chat down below. I've got Jim in Ohio. Let's see. Mark, why not go on and play DTR to see what he can do? I've seen a lot of DTR. I don't know if we need to learn if DTR is the guy. We should know that by now, I would think. Slow but sure with a $50 super chat. Holy smokes. Everyone show Slow but Sure some love in the chat right now. Thank you so much, Mr. Sure. Let's go. Wow. Did not see that one coming. It's coming on screen. Drum roll, please. Slow but sure, a legend of the channel. that $50 super chat right there, that is opening kickoff and returned out to the Saints' 35-yard line. Not quite a touchdown, but excellent starting field position. Petey, love the videos, my man. Best Browns analyst on the tube. Let's go, Brownies. Slow but sure. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. You know, we actually share a wall right now with the Steelers channel at Chat Sports. This is a green screen. I know, shocking development behind me. And I would think every time we got a super chat today, we just sing, here we go, Brownies. But what we can do is every time it just gets a little bit louder because they love to sing, here we go, Steelers. So if you guys are interested in getting under the Steelers host's skin, every super chat, we are going to sing, here we go, Brownies, no matter the amount. Slow but sure. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As always, go Brownies. Appreciate your kind words. Okay. Where is everyone tuning in from? I got Jason in Pennsylvania, Steve's in Ohio, David's in Minster, Time Warrior, F Pit indeed. Steve, my dad said the Browns are not going anywhere. Can't argue with that. Maybe can't. Oh, they're definitely going to Cancun in February. They're going to Cancun in January and February. All right. Keep shouting out your city for me in the chat. I've got Matthew Dorr tuning in from the 847 Chicago. Appreciate you watching. We do have some segments to get to on today's episode. We got some good news. I'm going to choose to be optimistic for the remaining couple of games here until they don't give me a reason to be optimistic. And then we're going to get to our mailbag. So if you have any questions, use hashtag Browns, or you can super chat like Slow But Sure just did, and we'll toss your super chat on screen for everyone watching to see. So that mailbag will be coming up in about a half hour, so use hashtag Browns somewhere in your message, then put it in the chat, and producer Reed will pick his favorite questions and throw them on screen to discuss live during the show. Okay, are we ready to jump into our first segment? We got 17 likes. We can do better. We can do better. If you have not liked the video yet, make sure to go ahead and do so. Hit that thumbs up button. I'm not starting the live show until we get to 25 likes. 7 likes away from 25 likes now. Make sure you like that hit that like button. Okay. So, we got yep. That's the linebacker one. Okay. Bingo. Okay. Sorry, everyone. I'm a broken record right now. Let's get into it. We had a meeting run a little bit late earlier in the chat sports world. We got 5 new. If you guys ever wonder if I'm like BSing you when I say these super chats really help grow the company, we got 5 for sure. It might even be 6 new employees starting next month. So really exciting times here, and this is 100% a result of the growth of the company, and that is all thanks to you guys, the viewers, for liking, commenting, super chatting. I know it might not feel like a whole lot, but it adds up. And weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and I've been doing this for 3 years and change. And believe me, the growth I've seen since I first started, my first video was all about the Browns preseason game against the Jags in 2021 when DPJ went off. We've come a long way since then. So I really appreciate all of the longtime viewers and the newer viewers for supporting the channel. I got Dallas getting a question in. I got Brown Dog getting a question in. Cool guys doing it. Love to see it. Okay. With that being said, we can get into our first segment. We're at 30 likes. So thank you to everyone who has liked the video. Big shout out to Slow But Sure for going above and beyond to show some support and love to the channel. Let's get into a live Cleveland Browns report. I saw this comment on a recent video, and it really jumped out to me. PD has the toughest job on the planet supporting this team. So I thought for today's episode, why don't we just be a little bit of an optimist? Why don't we just look at things with a half-glass full approach, getting ready for Week 11 as the Browns come back from their bye, because there is some good news out there for this team. And yeah, in a lost season, sitting at 2-7, right? Going into week 11. I understand there's not a whole lot to be excited about. And there's not a whole lot of good things to tune into. And we're all going to watch on Sunday, but we're not going to be very happy about it. But I've got some positive news I want to share. So one piece of positive news is Jameis Winston is in line for his third start. Hopefully he bounces back after a rough start number 2. He's also going back to New Orleans where he played 4 seasons. He made 10 starts for the Saints. And you better believe when Jameis returns to the Superdome, he is going to give an incredible speech. That's one piece of good news I have for you. We are in for an all-timer. It's Jameis going back to New Orleans. The only thing better than that will be Jameis going back to Tampa Bay. So, it may not be a great product once 1 p.m. hits, but we're all going to be in for an all-time Jameis speech. And honestly, that's going to get me through a lot of Sunday. I'll take it. So I can't wait to see what he cooks up. He says that it's off the cuff and it's not rehearsed, and it's probably not rehearsed, but it's got to be planned out a little bit. He's got to have some talking points on his notepad before he goes out there. So make sure you are ready for this speech because Jameis going back to the Big Easy, guys, it's going to get butts and seats. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be legendary. I mean, that's how awesome Jameis's return speech is going to be. So what's your score prediction, by the way, for Browns versus Saints? Let me know down below in the comment section. More good news to get to in just a moment here, but rattle it off for me. Who you got by how much? Now, as for some injury news, unfortunately, it's not very good. It's a long list of names. No, it's not. Not a single Browns player did not practice on Wednesday. I don't remember the last time the Browns had a injury report have full participation. At least limited for some, but have everyone back at practice. This is, I mean, like an albino. You never see this. Not a single Browns player did not practice on Wednesday. This is, I mean, life-changing news for those of us that keep up with this team when they're still 2-7. Jordan Hicks, by the way, is one player I want to highlight that was able to return to practice to begin Week 11. He missed the last 4 out of 5 games with an elbow and a fractured rib. He shared with the media today, being on Wednesday, that he spent 2 days in the hospital with an elbow infection after Week 3 and the game against the Giants. 2 days in the hospital? I feel like these types of stories just get glossed over way too quickly. 2 days in the hospital. I'm 2 days in the hospital. Everyone's going to hear about it and know about it till kingdom come. And I've got Jordan Hicks spending 2 days in the hospital trying to play and then realizing mid-game, I can only use one arm. We never give these players credit for what they put their bodies through and their ability to play through some really insane injuries. So happy to see Hicks back. This defense is definitely very happy to see him back because they are missing Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But really quickly, I do want to give a shout out to a new sponsor here at the Cleveland Browns Report, and that is Tushy. Holiday Gifting 101. Why drop 2 or 3 Benjamins on a cooler that'll get you some of the time when you can spend a fraction of the cost on a bidet your whole household will use all of the time? The Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing or electricity. People who have made the switch to Tushy use up to 80% less toilet paper. No more clogged toilets. Save your money and your derriere at the same time. Now, take it from someone who grew up and lived in Japan, where they have mastered the art of hands-free bathroom trips. Bidets are a game changer. So give the gift of practical luxury that benefits everyone in your household. For a limited time, our listeners can get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com/chat with promo code CHAT. And don't forget to give us a shout out while you're there and let them know who sent you. Go to hellotushy.com/chat for the best gift this holiday season. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. So getting back to Jordan Hicks and his return to this defense, I mean, for one, he has been a very reliable and consistent player for much of his career. This is the first season. Last year, he missed a little bit of time. Before that, he was nearly an Iron Man for much of his career. This year, he's missed nearly half of the games, but hopefully that's behind him because Cleveland really needs him back on defense. They are missing Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He was placed on IR 2 weeks ago, so he missed last week, the bye week, and this week. So he has to miss at least 2 more games with that neck injury if he ever gets activated off IR, which if they continue losing, they may decide, hey, there's real no point in bringing him back if he's still not even close to 100%. So excited to see Hicks come back on defense, pair up with Diabate a little bit. Winston Reed, I think, has played some really good football the last few weeks, filling in when called upon. So overall, this linebacker room has been cursed for the Browns. Really, since the return in '99, they've never had a long-term consistent player at that position, and I hope JOK can end that curse, but in order to do so, he has to be available, and that has been the biggest knock against him because he's a little bit on the smaller side, and his injury this year is a reflection of that, right? He gets hit by Derrick Henry, and unfortunately, those smaller players can pick up some extra hits, and that can lead to more injuries. But hopefully, hopefully Hicks can establish some consistency at the linebacker position for the remainder of the season because they really haven't had it, especially once JOK went down. Now, a last piece of good news is just something to refresh everyone's memories from. If you didn't watch our video a few days ago, history is kind of on the Browns side here. I went back and looked at all the interim head coaches since 2020. Darren Rizzi is the interim head coach down in New Orleans. They fired their old head coach a few weeks ago. So Rizzi, all-time name, by the way, filling in for the rest of the year over Dennis Allen. And history is not very kind to interim head coaches in their second game. I mean, in their first game, they have a 5-6 record. The second game, it's not very far off, 4-6, and that's 11 games, 11 interim head coaches. Once Rizzi plays his second game, we'll be able to fill this in and be 5-6, same as first game, or 4-7. But the big difference I want you guys to pay attention to is the point differential. Plus 19 in the first game for interim head coaches, minus 22, about a 40-point swing. So there is a certain number or certain element or just pixie dust in the air when it comes to an interim head coach's first game as the locker room gets up for it. They want to play extra hard. There's kind of a revival in there and a fresh leader, and that wears off after the first game. And hopefully, since the Browns are catching Rizzi for his second game, they can capitalize on that. And then lastly, there are some other things I'm excited for to watch the rest of the year. There's 3 guys who I want you guys to keep a close eye on. Jowon Jones at left tackle. Can he solidify himself in a cornerstone position? And that way it frees up the Browns from needing to use their first-round draft pick on a tackle in a draft class that doesn't have a ton of great tackles. And then some bye-week changes I think we could be in store for. Some more youngins, right? Mike Hall, Isaiah McGuire. We've gotten a good dose of we got a great dose of Cedric Tillman lately, but we'll get some more of that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson should have his helmet on because after Jameis Winston's second start, the leash should not be very long for number 5. And then lastly, I want to see this coaching staff and the players on the field get their act together in the secondary. What we have seen through the first 9 weeks is, not even the Cleveland Browns secondary. It's someone else. It's imposters. It is someone else wearing the numbers 21, 0, and 23, especially for the guys wearing 0 and 23. So let's get what was supposed to be an absolute pillar of not just this defense, but this team back on track. So going into 2025, we don't feel like we need to tear down another room because that's already going to happen with a bunch of other rooms and rebuild the corners. Before we sign off, I just want to show some love to the Brown and Orange Club. Tim Green You guys, you have no idea how incredible Tim Green is and how generous he is. I'll expand on that in a future watch party. Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, slow but sure, David Botner, Jared Brandt, James Harper, Papa T, Joseph DePorte, Mike, Ray Bidding, Dr. No, Eli Green, John Porter, Scorpion, Max T, Jacob Bate, Drunken Honky, Pistol, Kiki, Richard and James Belt, Nicholas, Ty Man the Buckeye. Thank you all so much for being with us every single watch party, hanging out with us, being active in the chat, supporting the channel. It means so much to me. You guys have no idea how much, I'm not going to get too emotional right now, but how much I love what I do, and it would not be possible without the consistent names and faces every single week. All right. Got some questions flowing in for our mailbag. If you have any questions, use hashtag Browns or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, we guarantee your question gets on screen for everyone watching to see. So if you're dying to ask a question and you want to skip the line a little bit, like a fast pass system, Super Chats will accomplish that for you. Otherwise, Reed is just going to pick his favorite hashtag Browns questions out of the chat for our mailbag. So get those questions in right now. I see Kathy's in the chat. Slow but sure. Jim, Soul Train, Jeffrey Stinnett. I want to see a question out of Jeffrey. Let's put the spotlight on Jeff for a moment here. Jim, DTR will play Sunday. I'll take it one step further, Jim. We're gonna see Bailey Zappi play at some point. Like once the floodgates open, if we get to DTR, it's gonna continue to flow. Why not add Bailey Zappi to the mix as well? So it's not going to slow down anytime soon. I really wonder if Bailey Zappi is happy to be on the Browns roster or would rather be on the Chiefs practice squad. I mean, to learn from Mahomes in practice would probably be very beneficial. Get a ring out of it, probably. But you get more money, and you'd probably rather be on a roster. That's got to be a tough one to fall down from.
I have no idea. I think being
they
on the
would
team,
say the roster.
Yeah, I think being on the team is just unfathomable for us. It's like being on an NFL team. Like they're making so much money by just going to practice every day.
Yep. Let's lead our mailbag with Cameron's question about Justin Fields. I just think it's a good question, and we can explore that to open up the mailbag. So, Cameron, you're going to lead it off here with that Justin Fields question. Okay, are we ready to jump into – yeah, that's the one. Our mailbag, Mr. Barkus? Okay. I'm ready when you guys are ready. So if you're just tuning in, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, like the video. We're at 40 likes. I just want one more like. Sometimes I can be a little bit needy. Just one this time. I want to go from 40 to 41. Then I'm happy. Then I'm content. I've got to 41. Ask and you shall receive. All right. Reed, do you have a surprise or you have an issue? Okay. All right. I'm ready when you guys are ready. I guess it's a dumb thing to say. They've been ready for a while. I'm ready when Reed is ready. Reed's doing all the stuff that the Wizard of Oz does behind the scenes. Let's get into a live mailbag. Welcome on into a Cleveland Browns Report mailbag episode. We're going to answer questions that came in during our live show, which airs every single Wednesday around 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So come hang out with us next Wednesday if you have a question you would like to ask. Our first question comes in from Cameron. Should we trade our first-round pick for Justin Fields, a second and a third? I'm going to amend this for you, Cameron, for a couple of reasons. One, Justin Fields is going to be a free agent after this year, so you don't have to trade for him. But even if he wasn't a free agent, you wouldn't give up a first-rounder. The Bears only got a conditional 6th-round draft pick that could elevate to a 4th if Fields plays 50% of the snaps, which he was on track to do so. Now it's unlikely to happen unless Wilson gets injured. But when it comes to just acquiring Justin Fields in general, because I think that's more or less what you're getting at here, I remember when ESPN suggested that over the summer, or not the summer, but over the spring before the Bears traded him to Pittsburgh, and I laughed at that. I was like, they're never going to trade for Justin Fields. What are you talking about? Well, maybe I need to take that back because at this point, there is no bad quarterback option. I don't think Fields, though, would be a good schematic fit for Kevin Stefanski. We've seen Stefanski have success with quarterbacks, and he predominantly has success when he gets the play-action game going and locks the deep ball, especially what we saw last year with Joe Flacco, and that's not really Justin Fields' strength. So Fields is a fun name, and I do think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a good fit for Cleveland. So as much as I like Fields as a quarterback, I would probably pass on him for the Browns. I don't think the fit is a very good match. Cameron, thank you for your question, though. Dylan Sutcliffe, what position should we target with our first-round pick? Excellent question, Dylan. I'm going to say the easy answer, which is best player available. But if you have best player available at a couple of spots, depending how the rest of the season goes, I like offensive tackle. Kelvin Banks out of Texas or Will Campbell out of LSU are two names to watch for. But if Jowon Jones plays lights out at left tackle and Jack Conklin plays well at right tackle, then maybe you don't need to use that first-round pick on a tackle. Wide receiver could be very interesting, although this draft class, outside of what's McMillan from Arizona, is not stacked at wide receiver. Maybe Ibuka from Ohio State, that could be an option. But I'll put a pin in wide receiver. There are some really good corners in this class. Will Johnson out of Michigan, Travis Hunter, who I think is probably going to play more corner than wide receiver in the NFL, but the money's at receiver, so maybe that sways him over to be a little bit more pushy. And I haven't even said quarterback yet because I don't think the Browns are going to take a quarterback unless the man they fall in love with is available when they're on the clock. I don't think they're going to reach on a quarterback or take one just for the sake of taking one. Andrew Berry's comments in his press conference earlier did not sound like a guy who was sold on Deshaun Watson next year. But without knowing what pick the Browns have, it's a little difficult to say. Because what if they get the 7th pick and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders go 1-2 or 1-3, and those teams don't move off those picks? Then it never really matters. So to answer Dylan in a really long, roundabout way, I think tackle's got to be high up on the list. If it's not tackle, wide receiver might be very tempting given Amari Cooper's departure. Austin, what do you think about Stefanski naming Winston the starter coming out of the bye week? I feel like this would be a good time for DTR. Just give him the rest of the year knowing he will start. I think that we should have a much better idea of DTR as a quarterback than we want to admit. We saw DTR start 3 games last year. It's not a ginormous sample size, but it is a decent sample size. We saw DTR come in for Watson after he went down against the Bengals, and we saw Winston come in for DTR after that, and it was very clear which quarterback was better. So I know that there is some allure to just, well, why not go with the younger guy? You never know. The reason or the answer to that question is it's tough to tell your locker room, hey, I know that internally we all know that Jameis is better, but it's a lost season, so sorry, we're going to waste a half season of your career because we just want to play GM mode in Madden and find out what we have in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You could get away with that in like week 18 or 17. To start that in week 11, there's still a lot of football left for guys to go out there and play hard and feel like, well, I'm playing my ass off, but it doesn't feel like the team's all that interested in winning. They're more interested in just being discovery mode for the quarterback of the future. So, and that being, coming with a pretty good idea as to what you have in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, which is, in my opinion, not a franchise quarterback. So, I think Jameis is better than DTR, and his leash should not be very long, but I don't think we should turn it over to DTR just for the sake of starting the younger quarterback when we've seen DTR play, and it hasn't been all that great. Made you look. Nick Chubb, close to 30 in age. What are your thoughts on drafting Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty for the future? I would love to, but that's a luxury. That's a perk. The Browns have not earned that perk. You can get that perk. By perk, I mean drafting a running back in round 1 when you have shown me that the rest of the roster is in a good position. I'm actually very pro running back. The easy opinion, the easy take that everyone jumps on right now is don't pay running backs, don't draft running backs. Well, the teams that say that, or the fan bases that say that, usually have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow as their quarterback, right? Easy for them to say that. If you don't have one of those guys, you should have a very good running back. So I like Ashton Genty a lot. I think he's going to have a very, very successful NFL career. I don't think it makes sense for the Browns to use a first-round pick on him. Kind of like Barkley and the Giants. Barkley was great, but the Giants were not in a position to use a very, very good premium draft pick on a running back. Just the return on your investment for how valuable that pick is, it's not there. If you had a franchise quarterback with no question about it, and this was just the cherry on top, I'm with you, right? But we don't. We have bigger issues to solve than running back. Before we get to the rest of the questions on today's episode, it is brought to you by our friends over at Ollie. Clean, fresh nutrition for your dog. Right now, Ollie is offering a fantastic deal to let your pup taste test a personalized meal plan. Get 60% off your first box of meals when you use promo code CHATSPORTS at ollie.com. And 5 flavors they'll absolutely love. You don't have to be a vet to know that feeding your dog real whole foods with minimal processing is one of the best choices you can make for their health. With no harmful fillers and no preservatives, Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world. Now, my dog Cruz, who you'll see in a moment, has a sensitive stomach, and so it's always difficult to get a new dog food brand for her. But we slowly started incorporating Ollie to her diet, and now she loves it. I mean, she gravitates towards her dog bowl when dinner bell comes ringing. So if you want your dog to have something different to munch on, but also something healthy, consider Ollie. Head to ollie.com, tell them all about your dog, use Chat Sports, and you'll get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Head to ollie.com and enter code CHATSPORTS to get 60% off your first box. They'll offer a clean bowl guarantee on their first box, so if you are not completely satisfied, you can get your money back. Next question coming in from Dallas. Should we bring back John Dorsey as an assistant GM and make him handle the drafting? I mean, he drafted Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, and Baker Mayfield. I love AB, but he just doesn't draft well. All right, one, you can't get John Dorsey to make a lateral move to a team that fired him. So that's not going to happen. He's currently the assistant over in Detroit. He's got some high role in Detroit. So he's not coming back to his old stomping grounds to be demoted. 2, he did make some good picks. Nick Chubb, excellent pick. Myles Garrett was someone that any GM could have picked. You had the first overall pick, and you had a generational pass rusher. He made a layup. I don't think that should be what we use to advertise as a reason to bring him back. Baker Mayfield was picked ahead of Josh Allen. You sure you want that guy pushing the right buttons? I think Dorsey did make a lot of good moves, and he probably gets more blame than he really deserves. But no, you're not bringing back Dorsey. And as for AB not drafting well, Andrew Berry hasn't had the first overall pick twice. Give AB the first overall pick twice, and you'd have a Myles Garrett, right? So it's not apples to apples when you compare one guy's draft picks to another, and then you look at what the currency they had. It's like, okay, you have your mom and dad go to the grocery store, and they each come back with ingredients to cook a meal. And you like your mom's meal more, but your mom also had $100 to spend at the grocery store, and your dad had $50 to spend. Who's going to make a better meal? Probably the person with $100. Probably the person that had 2 first overall draft picks and a very early second-round pick to take Nick Chubb. That's my 2 cents. Mo Lai G89. Jerry Jeudy will be wide receiver 1 next season, or do you see him being traded? He's not going to get traded. Remember, he signed that extension before the season began. So the Browns have long-term plans for number 3. he's going to be here for the foreseeable future, and I think he will be wide receiver 1. I'd certainly like to see him get back in the end zone. It's been a long time since that has happened, but I think Jeudy has played pretty well this year, given a lot of the turmoil and all the inconsistency on the offense. He's been relatively consistent, which is a nice breath of fresh air. Kathy, next one up. Can we get the whole Alabama offensive line? Those dudes are big and good. Kathy, are you sitting down for this? Do you know where Jed Wills went to college? Yeah. Alabama offensive linemen always look good in college. For whatever reason, their hit rate in the NFL is not as high as other positions are for their team, proportionally. So, no. I'm going to veto this one purely from the Jed Wills scars I have. We have a few more questions to get to on today's mailbag. David Snyder, should we sign Chris Collier for halfback depth? No, you got Nick Chubb, right? I mean, who even is Chris Collier? Am I dumb for not knowing who Chris Collier is? Am I getting got right now? So, yeah, no, you got Nick Chubb. You're gonna run Nick Chubb for the rest of the year. We had a $50 super chat, by the way, come in during our live show from Slow But Sure. PD, love the videos, my man. Best Browns analyst on the tube. Let's go Browns. Slow But Sure, thank you so much for your $50 super chat. If you enjoy the content we put out there and you're still watching our mailbag right now, scroll on down to the comment section. Drop a CLE for me. That way I know where the end of the video crew is. It's always fun to have an idea as to who watches all the way to the end. So if you're still hanging out with me right now, drop a CLE in the comment section. All right, boys and girls. That's going to do it. Cool guy. The only bad pick from 2023 was Ika and probably DTR. I don't know if round 5 picks can ever be qualified as bad. Barry does have a round 3 issue. I just think in the 3rd round, they need to lock him in a small closet. He's just not allowed. He is forbidden from drafting round 3. He did get Cedric Tillman. That's been looking a lot better recently. But David Bell, Anthony Schwartz, Siaka Ika, misses. So round 3, we're going to take, you know what? We're just going to mute Andrew Barry. Let him think he's a part of it. We make the picks. That's the solution. Slow but sure. When's the wedding, Petey? Ryan Ranke is tuning in right now. Wow. We got people tuning in all the way from the fatherland. Ryan, appreciate you watching. Slow but sure, we got the big day coming up in May. So we got Browns fans all over right now. Ryan looks like he has a nice beach in his avatar, so must be a well-traveled man. But appreciate you tuning in, Ken. Thank you for your kind words. Can't even imagine what time it is in Germany right now. Probably a lot of fun things to do. We've got some visitors potentially. Who knows? A lot of busy stuff going on over there. We will sign off. We'll let you guys get back to the rest of your day. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Go Brownies, and we'll catch up with everyone later.